Good morning, everybody. Start things off this week, we're going to be cutting some chickpeas and hopefully finishing up harvest today. And I'm really looking forward to it. First thing I'm going to be doing is shaving this beard off probably because it's kind of getting a little itchy, a little bit annoying, but we got to keep that harvest beard. So we'll see how things go. Got the auger set up ready for chickpeas. We're actually doing some other stuff here too while we wait to get going. Got this old Ford truck pulled out of the shed there. We're gonna leave the doors open, let the cats kind of run around there and hopefully catch some of the mice that were inside of it. Then we're gonna get the other tractor out here too. Well, out it comes. Like I said, it is a tight fit getting this thing out of here, especially by yourself. We got a couple inches on that side, and then we got just a couple inches on this side too. Like I said, it's kind of a big brute coming out of the shed here. Just barely squeezes in the old Quonset. Boss is up getting started on the chickpeas, but kind of doing some other things over here. We're actually down in the case tractor right now. And what we're doing in the case tractor is we're going to actually hook back up to the harrow. We're going to take the harrow and tractor back to the shop, and then we're going to hook the John Deere up to the harrow and then take that over to my dad's and grab a disc. All right. Got the first load of chickpeas unloading right now, going into the bin. So it's like I was talking about on last week's video. Sounds like it's almost like rocks going through the auger, those little chickpeas. Just kind of show you guys what they look like. So there's a handful of chickpeas, just kind of a weird looking shaped pea, not completely round. They got kind of little bumps and stuff all over them. Sorry about the wind we got today, kind of affect the audio quality here, but I figured I'd show you guys kind of what these chickpeas look like out in the field. So as you can see, these things are short. They're probably maybe a foot tall. That might be giving them a little bit. But they're kind of a weird looking little plant here. We'll pull one of the pods off. So that's what the little pod looks like. And that's not how big the chickpea is. Chickpea only takes up a little tiny bit of that pod. And they're just a weird shaped little thing. They can actually kind of get waxy too. I think it's I don't know if it's from the pods or the chickpea itself, but we've had some issues in the past where the combine kind of gets gummed up on the cutter bar and then it doesn't actually cut very well, just from the chickpeas themselves. That's why we usually spray these with paraquat to make them dry down. Well, we are getting closer to the end there. We'll see if the boss actually makes it down here. He's got a pretty good load on there. Not completely full yet, but pretty close. Well, we got the last load of chickpeas on here, and that is a wrap on Harvest 2022. Now the next thing's gonna be our seeding project, and we'll see how that goes. Harvest might be done, but we don't get any breaks around here. Our next project is gonna be getting the old Flexicoil fixed up, because we're actually gonna be using this guy for seeding this year instead of our John Deere that you probably just got blinded trying to look at. Sorry about that. But yeah, we're using the actual just normal hoe drill type air seeder. so we just got the normal hose here instead of the disc drill. We figure that's going to do a little bit better this year. So the reason I didn't get much harvest footage on the last day of harvest here was actually because I've been working on this thing in between loads as well, since we're just kind of pretty close to the bins right here. But we haven't used this thing for probably 8 to 10 years now. It's been sitting here, but we're gonna have to redo all the hoses on it and make sure all the tires hold air. I was actually trying to hook the tractor up earlier, but we couldn't hook it up because it's been sitting here so long. We had a bunch of dirt blow in, so even with the jack up all the way, you still couldn't even get it hooked up to the tractor. So I actually had to scrape a bunch of sand out of here just so we can get this thing hooked up. Well, the beard is shaved off, harvest is done. We're taking the harrow over to my dad's and gonna go grab the disc. But man, what a gorgeous way to start the morning here. We got the combine over there, just got to get it all cleaned up and ready to go back in the shed. Well, we just got back home from my dad's, took the harrow back, we got the big Summers disc. We got a whole lot of green sitting around here in the yard now. John Deere green and then a little Summers green too. But we're gonna get this thing all greased up. I already found one thing I gotta get welded up on it too. This little piece is just about fell off. Kind of surprised it stayed on there on the road coming home, but always something broken on this thing, it seems like. This Summers disc was actually a rental that we bought, and kind of thought we shouldn't have maybe bought it because it was in very rough shape when we were renting it. And yeah, it's always has something broken on it, it seems like. More broken stuff on this diamond disc. We've got a bearing completely out. You guys are, see if I can kind of put you in there. Yep, so that bearing is completely shot. Gonna have to tear that apart. Then also have this bolt that just about came out going down the road on the way over here. Always have those things break on different things. We've had a couple break on our Airseeder as well too, but I don't know why those keep snapping. But yeah, these bearings are kind of fun changing these out, so I'll kind of show you guys some of the steps when I'm working on it here. So the first thing we got to do, pull out the little locking pin, which I already did. Just goes in like that. Looks like this other side there, but I already got it pulled out. I kind of marked that side just to know kind of where that crown nut actually goes on there. And then that big wrench that I have on there actually comes with the disc itself. And that's what you use to get those big crown nuts off. So there's actually two of these big wrenches. You got to put the other one on the other side of the gang here. And that just helps hold it. That way you can actually get the nut off of there. I probably spun it about 10 times before I realized it wasn't actually coming off yet. After we got that outer disc pulled out, then we just had to pull the nuts off of these bolts here, and that's just the bearing holder itself. So you slide both of those off, and then the bearing, which is right here, was free to come out. Like I said, it just kind of sits on these little holders here. Then all we had to do was slide the bearing off, and we do have a new bearing, so we'll see if the actual holder itself is still in good enough shape to just use one of the bearings. So we're in the shop now working on it. So this is the old one, and that's actually the whole new assembly. But if this part's okay, we're going to try to reuse that. So we've got just the new bearing right there too. But the next thing we're going to do is actually pull the little snap ring out there and then try to get that old bearing ring out of this thing. Yeah, these are pretty big bearings. You can see I'll just put my hand kind of on the desk next to it. Yeah, they are some pretty large ones. After looking at it a little bit closer and trying to get the snap ring out, there's actually a little lip from where the edge of the bearing kind of rode up onto the top of the snap ring itself. So that snap ring is not going to come out nicely. So we might end up just using that whole new assembly type one, and then we can tear this thing down sometime in the winter when we got a little more time, because we're gonna have to kind of grind all that stuff off just to get this thing tore apart. We got our brand new bearing in there, Sorry I didn't get any footage for you guys of it. It turned out to be an absolute pain in the butt, and had to have the boss in the tractor actually kind of lifting the whole thing up and down just to get everything lined up on it. But we did eventually get it, and we got everything greased, got the welder broke out, got our little piece of metal welded over there too, and everything should be good to go on this thing now. We'll see. Like I said, this thing is kind of a interesting disc. This morning we went and grabbed the old New Holland bidirectional from down at the pivots and brought it back home. But I kind of noticed that the front loader seemed like it wasn't completely straight. It almost seemed like it was kind of off on one side. So I looked under here quick, and we're missing a couple of very important bolts down there. It's got 3 bolts that hold the front loader on there. We've got one still holding in the top, but we're kind of missing the bottom 2. So I'm going to put those back in there before we kind of lose the front loader on this thing. That wouldn't be very good. Well, I got one more bolt to tighten up on the New Holland that's in the shop there. But while we wait for the boss to get back from town with parts, and so he can help me with that, I'm going to start blowing off the combine. Something we do at the end of every harvest, just try to get as much out of the grain tank as possible, take all the little plugs out on the bottom, and just try to get everything kind of cleaned off. That way it's ready to go in the shed for the winter. Well, we've started. We got the cover open, and we've got our grain tank cleanouts taken off. As you can see, it's kind of wet, solid, nasty stuff inside of this thing. So I just take a bar that's got a little curve in it, and I'll shove it in there, start cleaning all that nasty gunk out. Well, we've got most of the combine blown off now. Only thing left we have here is just the feeder house, but I always like to do that after I get the header unhooked. And then I also have to get the header blown off as well too. But everything else on the combine is blown off good enough. It's kind of hard to get these things perfectly clean, but we've got it pretty decently. This thing was just inside the combine. We put the covers over these, and this was just completely full of dirt. And same thing up here as well. But it's all clean enough now, so we'll put all the covers back on, get the header unhooked, get that all blown off. We'll see if I get this all cleaned off today or not. It's about 101 degrees out right now, so it's pretty warm. Well, we're kind of back here behind the bins now because we have to grab the header trailer. We're just going to grab it with the John Deere. It's all a little bit big on the old John Deere there, but it works, so it just can't pull it once we put the header on there. Then it's too heavy. We've got the header kind of lined up with the trailer closely. I might have to pull it ahead just a little bit, but the next thing I'm going to do is actually hop out, unhook everything down here, and then we'll just be kind of hanging on here. It won't be locked onto the feeder house anymore, and then we should be able to set it down on the trailer. And we are all disconnected here. Last thing to do is just use those little straps there on the trailer. I'm going to strap the header to the trailer, that way it doesn't bounce off or anything like that. So right after I got the header unhooked, FedEx showed up and delivered our seed treat right there. So that's what's on that pallet right in the front there. So now we have our seed treat. That way we can get some of that winter wheat treated and ready for seeding. Got our next project all set up here, which is going to be doing new hoses on the Flexicoil. So all those white hoses here all going to be replaced, and then these long run hoses here as well also are going to get replaced. So it's going to be a long-ish job. It's not as bad as doing all the hoses on our 60-foot Airseeder, just because this one's a 40-foot, but it is still going to take a little while. And we're going to do all these long runs from the tank to the cart as well. So after working on this for about 5 minutes, I decided I don't want to be crawling around on sharp gravel all day. So we're going to end up moving this thing over to a little bit of dirt. Well, the weather sure changed a whole lot from yesterday. It's about 55 right now. Little bit of rain, nothing really call home about. And a whole lot of wind today. And it's a lot colder. I was not ready for it after 102 degrees yesterday. But we got one tower done here. We're kind of just starting up on this second tower. So what I do is I just go around and I loosen all of these guys up. Then I crawl around underneath of it here, loosen them all up on the bottom there. And then I start going one by one, and I'll just pull one hose out that end, pull them out the other end there. And then I've got my new hose right here. So then I'll just measure it so that way it's the exact same length, because you want to have them all the same length for how they were set up from the factory, or else it messes with the airflow and everything like that. So I just do one at a time. I'll cut it, and then I'll put the new hose in there. I'll just set it all in there, and then we'll go through and tighten everything down when I have the whole tower done. Another morning working on the hose. Don't need a whole lot of tools for this job though. So I just took the little tractor out here this morning. We got our hose there, and then this is pretty much all we need. Just a little hose cutter, and then we've got our nut driver there, and that's about it. And the coffee. We gotta have the coffee. But yeah, it's not a whole lot of stuff we need. So we're gonna just keep kind of working away on this and see how far we get before the week's over here. Well, we're getting there slowly but surely here. We're a little more than halfway done now. Getting a little bit of rain, which is nice to see. But hopefully it doesn't get super muddy under here. But I can't complain about the rain one bit. We're just finishing up the secondary runs here. You can see all our old garbage hoses we got kind of all over the place, sort of everywhere. And we got all those nice brand new hoses on there. So at least we got that finished. We got our tire back today too, so we can throw that on quick. And then the next thing is going to be the primary hoses. Redoing all those, it might be kind of a fun job as well too. So I better keep getting at it here. Well, it's about 5 o'clock on Saturday, and we've got our new primary hoses on here. All our new secondary hoses on those towers. And we're trying to get a couple other things fixed, like this tire right here does not want to spin. So I actually took apart the top of it. We got some WD-40 in there soaking in now. Hopefully that'll work and that thing starts moving again. Then we're also greasing up all our packers on the back here too, which we just jack it up a little bit off the ground so it turns, and then we grease the bearings under there, except some of them aren't taking grease. So I got a grease buster ordered, and hopefully that'll make it a little bit easier, because those bearings are apparently a real pain to get off. So hopefully that'll work, and that's probably gonna about wrap it up for this week. I'm gonna get the rest of these greased up and call it a Saturday.